We want to go through today and talk about the process that the Churchill 8th grade team used in the acceleration process. I'd like to send a thanks to the 8th grade team as well as our coaches, Ben Hartman and Jeremy Tomashow, for all the work that everybody put in making this a pretty seamless process for the first go. We were pretty pleased with what we had, so we want to try to share it as an option for other teams that might be looking for something. The first thing that we did was created a form. On this form, you can see that we have two different sections, and we'll go through that process of how we created in a moment. But just for the basics of the form itself, we can see that this is our original. So on this copy, we are including every enrichment intervention that has been created. This way, we have one running document that we will be able to copy from each time. You can see when we get to our choices, we've got all 22 that are currently available, and we can continually add to this. What this is helpful in doing is as we go to create the one for this session, now we can make a copy, name it specifically for those dates that the acceleration will run. And as we go through, we can delete the titles of courses that are not going to be offered for that acceleration time period, leaving only the ones that are offered and kind of streamline that process so you're not redoing it every time. We did keep these in alphabetical order to make that process a little bit easier as well. In creating the form, you can see that we titled it with the dates of the session, our 8th grade, and just a basic title. Quick description, please mark your first, second, third choices that you would like for the 3-week session beginning September 5th. The name, we do have both of these as being required, obviously. It's just a short answer text box. I can do this by add question. And then you choose from the drop down, short answer, homeroom. We went through and we wanted to make sure that we knew where all the kids were based out of. So we added in each of the homeroom teachers. This was again, add question, but instead of the short answer or the check, we just did a drop down menu. We figured that would keep our form a little bit cleaner. Every one of these descriptions, there is no question for it. So as we go through, all we did was we added the title text option, and you can see I added one right here. We put in the title, we wrote in a description. I'm going to delete this one for right now. That way, as we went through the descriptions, we modified a little bit to make sure that the language was all similar. We wanted every course to have that same feel and look to it. That way the students wouldn't be drawn in by something specific, that they all had kind of that exciting aspect to them. As far as the choices go, we went through just like with the descriptions above, we would just delete the options of those that were not going to be offered and leaving only the ones that we wanted students to be choosing from. Again, you can see it's the same idea. Please select your first choice in a drop-down menu. Making this more efficient, we could duplicate it, and then all you're doing is you're changing the title to your second, duplicate, change it to your third choice. For the second section, so the students will finish these 3, they will click go on. You add a section right here on the right-hand side. You get this option of add section. This is where now we're going to start thinking about moving forward. Where do we go next? What do we want to be able to do that students are looking for? So we want your input. They can add in any option that they want here. What are things that you're looking for? Please share your suggestions. We did a long answer text. So that way they had plenty of space to be able to add in the things that they would be interested in, as well as we've got all those options that have already been created by the people within our district so that we know, well, other courses that are there that students would really be interested in taking. This one was a checkbox because we do want them to be able to choose as many of those that sound intriguing for them. The thing that really benefits using the form is I can see there were 199 students that took it, so I know that our population, everybody was done. So as we go through, let me scroll down. The charts give you a great visual of, okay, well, what was their first choice? How was the disparity between them? Was there something that really stuck out? Were they pretty even? And it gets interesting is after the first choice, they really do start to kind of level off. That was the chart from the second and the third. You can see that these pieces are all getting closer and closer to being pretty equal. The bigger thing I think is, well, let's get to those suggestions. As we look at this, I mean, you're going to get the things like nap time, but there's also taxes, study hall, tricks and tips to dominate the stock market. So, do we have classes that have been created for these? Uh, or is this things that we want to create because that's what students are looking for? The other piece is this chart right here. It's like, wow, we had 91 out of 199 students that want this college and career exploration course. We could probably do 2 sessions of that one next time. So we're collecting this data of what students are wanting to help us plan for that next session or maybe the next 2 sessions as we go through and we keep this data going. After we collected the data, now what do we do with it? At the top of your responses, you have this option. Oh, before we talk about this, one quick note. In settings, make sure that you restrict to Elmhurst 205 users and limit one response. We only want the one response from students. We do not want them editing after submitting. And we went ahead and took off the uh, responses. So now we want to view responses in sheets. If it's the first time you've done it, it's going to ask you to add to an existing or create a new. For the first time, you would create a new. And the sheet is going to look like this. So you can see we have the timestamp, their email, first name, last name, their homeroom. This one's already been edited a little bit, so we did add in this column F, and that was where they're actually going to get placed at. But you see their first, second, third, so it was all of our questions from the form. Now, this next step was one of the bigger things that helped us being efficient in organizing this process. Over on the left, if you click the corner of your table, you're going to select the entire table. This process then lets you go to data, sort range, key pieces, making sure you click data has header row. That way you're organizing from row one, not from the actual entire column. We did your first selection, add another sort, and then by timestamp. We felt that going through, especially this first time, that this might be a fair way of doing it for students. Let's see what their first selection is, and then order that by the time that they actually submitted their document. We're going to sort that out. Now you can see their first selection over here is all sorted. And then we're able to quickly go through. If I have Be the Change, and I know that we could have 25 students in this, I'm going to click the top one for Be the Change. I'm going to hold Shift down and click the next one, or excuse me, the very last one and Be the Change. Right down here at the bottom, you already have your count. So I know, well, I've got 9 more people that could go into this class. Unlike, let's look at brain food. Again, click, and I'm going to scroll down to the last one. I'm going to hold Shift down, click on it. Well, if I have 20, a max of 20, then I need 7 kids that are going to go somewhere else. This allows us to quickly move kids into the classes, and that we can look at, okay, where do those last students go? We really wanted to honor the student selections. So as we went through, let's just kind of go down to one that we can see. Let me point out right now that I have it on the screen. Before we started the sorting piece, we did add in uh, colors for students that were either going to be in one of the two interventions that we're running this first time. So we just used blue and yellow. Blue could be students that were in the reading intervention. Yellow were students that were in the math intervention. That allowed us to make sure that our numbers, as we went through, we weren't including them in it because we already knew they were going into certain classes. And we did include those classes on our list. So you can see if I look, and this is what students would have seen when they took it. So they add in their first, last name, their homeroom, again, the drop down menu, be the change, brain food coding. So emojis in the Bronx is actually our reading intervention. We wanted it on there because we didn't want students to feel like they were going to be different. We wanted it in there. We had a lot of students sign up for our interventions. We, including a student that first choice was the reading, second choice was the math. So these are courses. Maybe we start looking at how do we include other students within the interventions that may not necessarily need it, but are interested in that idea of what they're going to be doing in the class. Then at the bottom, you can see their first, second choice. Again, drop down menu makes this process a little bit quicker. They click next, and then they get to the screen where we have their options for them. So going back to our sheet now. So now, once we find Intro to Sign Language, this was one that was very highly desired for this first cycle. So as we went through, you can see like this student needed the emoji. So and they actually had that as their third choice. This student, that was not one of their choices, but that's where they need to be. So we placed them there. Uh, and then we had other ones. This student, because they were past the limit of what's going to be allowed in that class, we looked at their second. Was there room in their second? Yes. So they got their second. This student got their second, got their second. There were going to be some that as we went through, we were down to probably 20 students that we could not just easily move over in place by their first or second choice. We had some students that by the time they selected, the options they had were all full. All three of their choices were full. So what we did to try to be fair is we went back and looked at some of the students. You can see these kids, according to timestamp, should have been able to get into the intro to sign language, but they had space into their second choice. There was room in that class for them, so we made some of those adjustments. But every single student was able to have a first, second, or their third choice as the class that they're going to end up taking. It's the bit.ly, so bit period ly/selection email. No spaces, no capital letters. Once you've entered this, it's going to take you to a screen that asks you to copy the document. Now, this is designed for you to have to make a copy of it. You can see I've just called this the acceleration class email form, but it can be used for multiple purposes. You'll make a copy, and then when the new screen pops up, you're going to see that everything is kind of laid out pretty, hopefully easily, subject of email. So for us, it was your acceleration class information. The salutation is respectfully the 8th grade team. Change that to whatever you like. My greeting was just hi. Email address, when I put an email in here, I can put mine in real quick. If we do that, name, Peter, we have the common message. So every single person on this will receive this message. One thing to note, when you're in the message typing, if you want to space down like I have here, going from this line to the next, you have to hold Alt and press Enter. If you just press Enter, it's going to take you out of that box. So please be mindful of that. For the individualized message, this is where we put the name of the class. So I'm just going to put coding. I'm going to say this is in 110F for a room. And the teacher, I'll put Hartman. So now I've got everything laid out. The email, the name, here's the message, the individualized piece of it. These are all done by just copy paste. So I would copy and paste this from the sheet where we put our selections together. And then there's a preview for you. So you can actually see what this is going to look like all together and what the students or kids should see. You can see down here in this one, it's blank because we haven't added that information, but this is the common piece of it. The last step in here at the top says send emails. All you have to do is click on this, send email. If it's the first time you've used this, you have to authorize this being out of your mail. So I'm going to choose that is authorized. So every student here saw that I sent them an email. So whoever creates this, the emails will come from them. You can see we finished our script. And now if I go to my mail, there's my email right there. So it's from me. That would typically be whoever you send it from. And then the message that the student would receive. So again, individualized, talks about what it is, their class, their room, their teacher. If you have questions, please contact us. Hope this is helpful.